The biggest news on TikTok right now is not Donald Trump. It's not what's going on in China. It's that black people or African Americans have figured out their true identity, their true heritage. And the fact of the matter is, we are not from Africa. Even though they have a vast wealth of great ancient history, that is not our history to claim. Welcome to the cookout. First thing first, understand that black people in America are a people with a lost culture and history. Now, when you're thinking about the ancient Americans, the civilizations such as the Maya and the Olmec, these are civilizations with a lost people. You do the math. Now, a topic like this would be a huge speculation circulating throughout the TikTok community, but there is no speculation when I've already done the work to prove that I am indeed indigenous American. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is YHE son. I am of the Shi Amaru indigenous Americans. Throughout the course of history, we've been known as the Olmecs, the Mayas, the Yamasee, the Aztec, the Inca, the Carib, the Arawak, Seminole, names that have been heard throughout history on a multitude of times. But a lot of people don't know where these names come from. You see, when we're talking about the history of the Americas, it's important to understand the American lands were attacked in 1492, and the people that were here were people that looked just like me. Now, the people who did this attack were the Spaniards. Now, we have to break down, because 500 years is a long time, guys. So now we have to break down in modern day who the descendants of these Spanish conquistadors are, so we can actually figure out who's indigenous to this land and who's not, okay? Now, when we're looking at the descendants of the Spanish conquistadors, we're looking at people like the Puerto Ricans, we're looking at people like the Mexicans, the indigenous Americans. All these people have European ties, okay? And when I say indigenous Americans, I mean the Native Americans, the ones who have more Asiatic features, right? And you notice that these people, along with the Mexicans and the Europeans or Spaniards, all have huge resemblances, right? It's because they are the pretendians. They are the ones who captured this land and took it away from my people, okay? Now, let's just go and really dissect how these people did this, right? You have to understand that these people move in domination. They take over, they relocate, they mimic, and they claim, okay? So after they dominate a land, they relocate the people, they mimic their culture, and then claim the culture. That is why you see all these different non-melanated shades of people claiming to be Native American, claiming to be American, claiming to be Central American, South American. And the fact of the matter is they're not. Period. Now, I could go on and on and on and on with proof receipts and documents to prove everything that I'm saying is true. But to save time, I'm just going to give you a list of references of people that you can actually go research yourself and find the same information that I have, okay? Let's start off with Richard Neves, Walter Neves. These are the men responsible for recreating Lucia, right? The Brazilian woman, the oldest skeleton ever found in America. And they are the reason why we now know Lucia was a melanated woman, okay? Let's talk about the great Joel Augusta Rivers. If I got that wrong, I apologize. Who is responsible for breaking the chains of bondage on our people's mental, right? He was responsible, or one of those responsible, for bringing awareness to the Olmec sculptures, the Olmec heads, the Olmec artifacts, right? And they resembled us, quote unquote, African Americans. Simply put. Another name is Dr. Cyrus Gordon. Dr. Cyrus Gordon was an anthropologist. I mean, he made superb, what's the word I'm trying to look for? Superb contributions to the fields of anthropology and human migration. And when he studied the artifacts or the skulls or skeletons of the earliest Americans that he could find, he said that out of the hundreds and thousands of artifacts and remains that were here, very few of them actually resembled the modern day Native Americans. But more importantly, most of them resembled the people you call colored today. Hope you guys enjoyed this lesson.
If we were really from Africa, America would have never told you. I mean, what's the point of taking someone's last name taking mother away from daughter, taking son away from father, making sure they can't speak their language, making sure they don't know their culture. If you're just gonna turn around and tell them the exact location where they're from in the first place, it just makes no sense. What makes sense is telling them they're from somewhere else so they won't connect to their actual land and heritage and culture. Think about it. Peace to the gods.
Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. So guys, I'm back again with another interesting video. Guys, this is very interesting and strong argument. So if you don't know, recently or since last year, some Black Americans have been saying that they are not connected to Africa. They claim that their ancestors were not from Africa and they do not have any connection with Africa. A lot of them have also urged other Black Americans to stop identifying as African American. They say they should start identifying as Black American and American, not African American, because they do not have any connection with Africa. Some of them made this big claim that they are the indigenous people of America, that they were the first people, their ancestors were the first people in American land, that the American land was taken from them by white men with the help of the today indigenous Americans. Guys, this is so very scary, as in the argument is getting a bit scary. I'll let you watch some of the replies of Native Americans on TikTok, and guys, I'll come back to give you my own opinion. But if you're a Black American watching this, I want you to know that I love you no matter how you identify yourself as. You have the right to choose what to identify yourself with and what not to.
I've been watching some TikTok videos about Black Americans going around claiming that they're the real Native Americans and that the real Native Americans are fake and that they stole our culture. Now you guys, y'all know damn well that is not true. Yes, some of us have Native ancestry. Yes, some Native Americans did enslave Africans. And yes, we all know that history is messy as hell. But we know for sure that this is not true. There's no proof. There's no language. There's no documents. There's no DNA that proves that we were here first. You guys are actually going around erasing Native American culture. Why? To feel rooted in your own? Going around erasing someone else's identity to feel good about our own is not cool. That kind of happened to us. Black people, you guys are beautiful. We are mixed people. We are African. We're European. Some of us have native blood. We are a beautiful mix. There's no need for us to go around trying to erase someone else's identity just to feel good about our own. Know that you are loved, whether you're dark skinned, you're light skinned, whatever you may be. We've been through hella shit. We have. But don't go around here treating other people the same way we got treated. You're loved. Accept that. Be proud of who you are.
But when I say that Black people are the Indians, I'm telling the truth. We are the goddamn Indians. We've been the Indians the whole time. Your ass has been living under a false ass history.
There's a really strange phenomenon happening on social media where a very small group of African Americans are claiming to be the real Native Americans in the United States. And if that claim seems to be completely outlandish to you, you're not alone, because it's actually pseudo-archaeology, which is the practice of interpreting the past using methods, theories, or assumptions that directly contradict archaeological and scientific methods. These narratives often distort, misrepresent, or completely fabricate evidence to uphold their claims. Their arguments are all over the board and harmful to indigenous people because they are steeped in white supremacy and settler colonialism. Let's take a look at a few of their arguments and dismantle them. First, the Siberian argument. They like to make the argument that indigenous people are not truly indigenous because we are the descendants of the ancient people who migrated from Siberia 15 to 30,000 years ago. Let me put that in context for you. 15,000 years ago, the Ice Age was still happening. Woolly mammoths and saber-toothed tigers were still roaming the earth. The Sahara Desert was still green. And if you want to apply that argument to anyone else here, right now, let's take white Americans, for example. You would have to call them Middle Easterners because Europe at that time was under ice. The Siberian argument reeks of settler colonialism because it erases Native history and works to destabilize Native land rights and legal protections. Because if no one is truly indigenous, then there are no obligations, no treaties to uphold, no lands to return, and no justice to pursue. The next round of arguments they like to deploy revolves around the Dawes Rolls, which I hope they know is a colonial tool, not a sacred record to determine who is or who isn't Native. The Dawes Rolls were created to dismantle tribal nations and assimilate us into white settler society. People were categorized in racist and strategic ways. The rolls are useful for better understanding U.S. policy, not for defining indigeneity. One of the more disturbing arguments that these folks like to make is that Native American children were sent to boarding schools to learn how to replace and be the real natives. Like you, it takes me a lot of mental gymnastics to even consider that as a reality, because the boarding school era is a very well documented and traumatic event that happened to Native kids who were forced to be at these schools to assimilate into white society. The bottom line is, we know the truth. Native people have been in relation to this land for at least 15,000 years and at most 30,000 years. And in that time, we developed thousands of ways to say Shamanastan Shuja, Mother Earth and Father Sky. The bones of our ancestors are here and nowhere else in the world. That is why, to this day, Native people will always be at the front lines of environmental activism, protecting the water, defending the sacred, and demanding for land back. Because indigeneity doesn't come from governmental designations. It comes from here.
History is complex and people are complex. Two things can be true at the same time. The Native Americans were almost extinct and the Native Americans were also owning slaves. Uh-oh.
Hey, your bio says you're intellectually inclined, but that doesn't always mean well educated. Let's see what else you have to say.
Because the reality is this, right? Let's think of it in a logical manner, right? The Native Americans, Trail of Tears, everybody is almost extinct, okay? Like, majority of the Native American tribes was almost extinct on this Trail of Tears.
Your logic immediately dehumanizes Native people and is incorrect. Extinction refers to the state of a species where there are no remaining members living in the wild or in captivity. Newsflash, we're not a different species. We're human. Using the word extinct implies that Native people simply disappeared as part of some natural process. We survived genocide. The idea that Native Americans are almost extinct is a convenient myth from manifest destiny and settler colonialism. It allows the dominant society to avoid accountability. It makes it easier to ignore Native voices because it assumes that there's no one left to speak. Additionally, it appears you're only looking through a small window of Native history. The Trail of Tears was a genocidal tactic allowed to take place because of the Indian Removal Act of 1830. The Trail of Tears was horrible, yes, and many natives know this history, but it only impacted the tribes in southeastern United States. This is Turtle Island, also known as North America. The Trail of Tears impacted the native people in this region. And this is the map of all the tribes in North America, the majority of whom were not on the Trail of Tears. And of all of those tribes, 5 participated in the institution of slavery.
The Black American push towards conservatism mirrors a lot of ideas within the white Christian nationalist push of conservatism. And I'm not talking about voting. I'm not talking about voting Republican or Democrat. I'm talking about ideologies, right? Black conservatism pushes ideas of xenophobia, right? This idea that immigrants coming into the country are taking the slice of the pie that Black people struggled and fought and protested so hard to get, when in reality, there's a much larger pie at hand and we're all being thrown crumbs, but we are targeting immigrants, right? Black conservatism pushes ideas of Black American isolationism, that other Black communities such as the Afro-Latin and the Caribbean communities who also dealt with slavery, who were also a part of the Atlantic slave trade, are our enemies. The idea that African communities, right, immigrants who come here from Africa who have dealt with the exploitation of their resources for generations, are also somehow our enemy over the systems that be, that they being here is somehow taking our spot, right? Black conservatism pushes this idea of specific connection to the American identity, to the greater United States of America, between the military, between places, the flag imagery and things like that.
I don't know why all this thing is happening, but I feel like one of the things that kick off this big argument and what now seems to be hatred between Black Americans and Africa is mainly people trying to tell Black Americans that they do not know their roots, and also people trying to force some Black Americans who do not want to identify with Africa to identify with Africa because that is where they come from. Honestly, I wish we should like give people the right to choose or make decision that pertain their life. Me personally, I do not have issue with anybody identifying as African or anybody accepting that they have anything African in them. I don't have issue with that. As long as you're happy with whatever decision you make, I will always support you, because at the end of the day, that is your life. My only confusion is Indians, Black Indians, right? They are Indians and they look Indians even though they are dark, very dark, even darker than me. Then how is it that Black Americans are Americans but they look like Africans? This is only where I get a bit confused. But again, I accept whatever that that they try or want to identify as. I love Black Americans. They have inspired me as a content creator. I will never go against anybody or whatever anybody chooses to do with their life. So guys, please, let's not fight each other again. Let us respect each other's decision.